It's my birthday today, so you know what? We're gonna make this crown. Let me show you how. But first, let's go over the supplies. We're gonna need rope, of course. We're also gonna need some self-adhesive rhinestones, and they can be any shape or color you like. I got mine from the dollar store. You're gonna need a hot glue gun and, of course, your scissors. And what's optional is some T-pins and a macrame board. I'll link everything in the description box. To get started, we're going to need 8 180-inch strands of cotton cord, which is 15 feet or 5 yards. And yes, that is a lot of rope. So find the middle of all your cords by folding it in half. And what I like to do is tie a loose overhand knot right in the center to mark my place. Since I'm working off of my macrame board, I'm going to pin it down, but if you don't have a macrame board or pins, no worries, you can always use masking tape and tape it down to your working space. Fan out your cords so that they're not all bunched together, and then with the far left cord, this is going to be our filler cord, and we're going to create a diagonal line. So to do this, we're going to tie a diagonal row of double half hitch knots. To make a double half hitch knot, you want to take the next cord in line and loop it around your filler cord. This is half of your double half hitch knot. To create the second half, which secures our knot, is you're going to repeat the same thing. So you want to loop it around your filler cord. This macrame crown is made up of entirely double half hitch knots, so I recommend that you practice this knot before attempting. If you need a little bit more help or guidance on how to tie a double half hitch knot, feel free to check out my knot tutorial playlist and you can find the demonstration in there. In that video, I go much slower and in more detail, plus I cover some of the common mistakes. With all that being said, you totally got this. Plus, you can always adjust the speed of this video by tapping the 3 dots on the top right corner. Okay, so I'm going to speed this up and carry on tying my diagonal line of double half hitch knots. Okay, now that we've made it all the way across, we're going to take our filler cord here and we're going to get it out of the way. We want to forget this cord and work it later on. Next, we're going to grab the rightmost cord and we're going to do another line of diagonal double half hitch knots, but we're going to work back in the opposite direction. And just remember, when you're tying your double half hitch knots, you want to make sure that it loops around your filler cord. Also, this row needs to be directly underneath your last one, so make sure that it's very close together. Okay, so I'm going to speed this up and show you what to do once we get to the end of this row. Alrighty, so now that we made it to the end of the row, we're going to take the next rightmost cord and that's going to be our new filler cord, and we're going to do another row of diagonal double half hitch knots. If you weren't already a master at your double half hitch knot, you sure will be by the end of this project. Once you've completed your third row of diagonal double half hitch knots, we're going to repeat the same thing and do another row of diagonal double half hitch knots. And I don't know if you just noticed there, but I did get a tangle in one of my cords. If this happens to you, and it happens frequently, I do recommend that you spool up your cords if they're too long and are constantly tangling on you. Okay, so now we should have a total of 4 rows. Next, we need to take our same filler cord and we're going to drag it to the opposite side and we're going to work back in the opposite direction. So it's the exact same thing we were doing, only we're working from left to right this time, and you want to tie 3 more rows going in this direction. As you're working, you can really start seeing the shape happening now. What we're creating is a scalloped shape pattern. And again, I'm going to go ahead and speed up this video until we've completed 3 rows going in this direction. Alrighty, so now we should have a total of 7 rows altogether. Next, we're going to take this cord that we had placed off to the side right at the very beginning, and we're going to go ahead and work that back into our pattern here. So what it's going to do is going to be our filler cord, and it's going to come back around and up through the opposite direction again. To close the gap, we're going to pinch it, and that will create our scallop shape. So again, it's going to be our filler cord, and we're going to tie another row of double half hitch knots all the way across the bottom. And just be mindful of your first knot. We want to make sure that that gap is totally closed up. If you're enjoying this video so far, please do me a favor by hitting that like button. When you like my videos, it is the easiest and free way to show me support. Also, it helps me determine which videos you guys like the most so I can create more patterns that are just like this one. And if you're new here, hello, my name is Sheena Joy, and I like to make macrame patterns every single week, preferably on Sundays, but that doesn't always happen. But regardless, we always have a lot of fun over here, and I hope you consider subscribing. Okie dokie, now back to our pattern. Once you've gone all the way over to the other side, it should look something like this, and that completes our first scalloped shape. And it happens to be the largest scallop out of all of them. The rest of them, we're going to make it a bit smaller. So the one we completed was the very front of our crown. If you prefer to have your scallop the same size all the way around, all you would need to do is repeat the same thing we did over and over and over again. However, I like the variation in size, so I'm going to decrease mine. So let me show you how. What we're going to do is we're going to take this filler cord that we had finished off our last scallop with, and we're going to throw it up and out of the way. That one's done. We're totally eliminating that cord. If it helps you visually, it's okay to snip this cord off, leaving about 4 inches of a tail. Okay, so we're going to grab the second cord, which is now our first cord because we eliminated the other one, and we're going to do the same thing we did at the top. So place this filler cord across vertically, leaving about 1.5 to 2 inch gap on your right hand side. And we're going to go ahead and tie our diagonal row of double half hitch knots. And just like our first scallop shape, we're going to take this filler cord and we're going to tuck it behind our board, and we're going to forget about it until later. Next, we're going to do 3 more rows, working back in the opposite direction, making sure that you leave out that first cord that we had eliminated. Once you have 4 rows in total, it's time to go back in the opposite direction. Now we should have a total of 7 rows. Next, we're going to take that filler cord that we'd placed off to the side, and we're going to use that as our bottom filler cord and work from right to left. Okay, so that completes the second largest shell. Now we're going to decrease again by removing this cord here and place it off to the side. Or of course, you can cut it off, leaving about 4 inch tail. And of course, grab your leftmost cord, creating a diagonal line, leaving about 1/2 inch to 2 inch gap on the right hand side. Place your filler cord off to the side, and this time we're going to do 2 rows of double half hitch knots. So once you have 3 rows, we're going to go ahead and work back in the opposite direction for another 2 rows. Because this scallop is quite a lot smaller than the first 2, we had to decrease our rows. Once you have a total of 5 rows, we're going to close in our scallop by grabbing our previous filler cord that we had left off to the side. So I'm going to go ahead and stop here to show you the 3 different sizes of our scallops. So now what we're going to do is we're going to create more of the smaller size scallops. But remember, we're not decreasing, so we're not going to eliminate this first cord. Instead, we're going to grab it and we're going to pull it off to the right hand side and use that as our filler cord for our diagonal first line. So I went ahead and completed 2 more of those smaller scallops, which completes the first half of our crown. So let's untie our overhand knot at the start and work on our second side. Our second half is going to be mirrored. Since our center scallop is already done, what we need to do is start off with a decrease. So eliminate this first filler cord here, and I'm going to snip it off this time. Next, grab the rightmost cord and we're going to create our bottom edge here by creating a diagonal line off to the left-hand side this time. Take that filler cord and place it off to the side, and we're going to go back in the opposite direction doing 3 rows. So you should have a total of 4 rows before you're going back in the other direction again. And then finally, we're going to close our scallop. And make sure that you have a total of 7 rows before you close it, because this is our larger scallop shape. I'm going to demonstrate this side of our crown quite quickly because it's exactly the same as we did before, only it is going in the opposite direction as it is mirrored. Once you complete the second largest scallop, what we're going to do is we're going to take this filler cord and we're going to eliminate it. And then we're going to work on our smaller size scallop. Once you create your vertical row, you want to remember that since we're making a smaller scallop, you only need to do 2 rows going in this direction. And then once we get to the other side, we're going to do another 2 rows. So in total, you should have 5 before you close in your scallop. Okay, so right now is a good time to check to see if it fits, because once we close in our crown, we cannot make it any smaller or larger. So now is the time to adjust your size. So if you want a larger crown, all you have to do is add another scallop, or if you need it smaller, you just eliminate one. Next, we're going to clean up the ends at the top of our crown. To do this, you want to snip it off, leaving about 1/4 of an inch, and then add a bead of hot glue to the back of your crown, and you want to fold it towards the back. If you don't have hot glue, you can always use fabric glue, or you can even use super glue. Once you've finished cleaning up the ends at the top, what we're going to do is close in our crown and make it look nearly seamless. Okay, so to do this, you want to leave this top cord here that is our filler cord. Set that aside, we're going to need it. And then on the one side, we're going to snip off all of the other cords, leaving about 1/4 of an inch of a tail. And this is important, make sure you're only snipping off this side of the crown. Do not cut off the cords on the other side. Take your time gluing this down towards the back and it's all flat and smooth. And now we're going to join it together. So to do this, what you want to do is grab the top 2 filler cords and we're going to join those together, tying another double half hitch knot. I was not joking when I said earlier that this crown is made up of all entirely double half hitch knots. Once you have that tied, we're going to snip off those 2 filler cords, leaving about 1/4 of an inch of a tail, and we're going to fold that onto itself towards the back. I like to use the side of my glue gun to make sure that it's all flat and smoothed out. Okay, so as you can see with the pattern of our crown here, we have these gaps between our scallops where the cords run across. We're going to try to mimic that here. So we're going to cut our cords at an angle and we're going to hot glue it down onto the other side, mimicking the same pattern that's between our scallops. And now for the really fun part, we're going to dress it up using some rhinestones. I got mine from the dollar store. I got this whole pack for $2, as you can see. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to place them on using the adhesive that it comes with it, just to get the placement down. And then I'm going to take them off and then I'm going to hot glue them back down. And I just have to say, you are not limited to rhinestones. You could use shells and hot glue those down, or precious stones, or you can hand sew some beads. The sky's the limit. You can do whatever you wish. Thank you for spending time with me on my birthday, and I'll see you in the next one.